Is Ion Fury better than Duke Nukem 3D? That is a question that I seek to answer in reviewing this amazing 2021 boomer shooter, as it's the spiritual successor to 1996's Duke Nukem 3D after 3D Realms lost the rights to the king. Where to start my review of this title? I guess I'll just go ahead and say that I think Ion Fury is a very solid game, but what makes it so great? Well, the combat is very fun and holds just the right amount of challenge on the normal difficulty, being neither too easy or too hard. But you do have to use your noggin a bit, and you might have to try a couple different approaches to a situation before something works, like looking for vents to crawl through for a surprise ambush on foes versus a more guns blazing approach. And speaking of guns blazing, this title holds a massive arsenal of very unique weapons, ranging from the Loverboy revolver, which doesn't dish out a lot of damage, but has a auto-aim secondary fire mode, so very useful for small and or fast-moving enemies. Then you had a sick shotgun, which doubled as a grenade launcher. A minigun, which deals out large doses of pain and has a boatload of ammo, so great for tough enemies and super prolonged firefights. You had a couple very unique handheld explosive weapons, being the bowling bombs, which you bowl, and it deals heavy damage and will only explode if it actually hits an opponent or if you light it before you toss it. Although these could be a bit hard to use, as Shelly, your character, can't throw them very far, but they were still quite useful. You also had the Cluster Puck, a hockey puck shaped grenade that explodes on impact, with a secondary fire to burst into several small explosions when tossed, or just one big boom as the normal bomb. Next up is the Ion Bow, a really cool looking crossbow which has pretty good range and accuracy in addition to having really overpowered charge shots which are great against bosses, and I believe that the last firearm to discuss are the SMGs, which you can either dual wield or just hold one, and these bad boys shoot flaming rounds that are particularly good at offing certain drones and cloaked humanoids. The last weapon to discuss is Shelly's Shock Baton. Wow, that's a bit of a tongue twister. The only melee weapon in the game, and well, it's an energized baton. Not really a useful weapon in most combat situations, but it's needed to power up generators throughout the game and is also useful for destroying trash bags and cans while scavenging for supplies. I believe that's all the weapons discussed. A very impressive selection if you ask me, and it's hard to say if I have a favorite tool of combat. Maybe the shotgun, and in classic boomer shooter fashion, ammo is either dropped by foes, found just lying around, or hidden in destroyable objects, which I mentioned earlier. All this being said, I wasn't a massive fan of the weapon wheel, which was pressing up and down on the D-pad, making it really tough to move and change your weapon simultaneously. I played this with an Xbox One controller, by the way. Although to be fair, I'm not really sure how else the weapon select could have really been implemented, as Ion Fury used pretty much every button on the controller. While on the topic of weapons, I want to talk about the enemies of this game, and let me tell you, Ion Fury has a massive variety of foes, ranging from humanoid foot soldiers with pistols, shotguns, and bows, to sewer zombies, mini tanks, some sort of a centipede robot, which is like the centipede in Atari's classic arcade hit Centipede, where you have to shoot its head or else it just breaks into multiple bugs instead of dying, and I usually dealt with these by tossing a bowling bomb at them. There were also multiple types of flying drones, like mini drones who would be a mild nuisance, and then their big cousins who had better weaponry and stronger armor, making them much bigger threats. A somewhat similar enemy type were the little spider robots, like the slimes on Duke Nukem 3D, and these little punks can be hard to see, they deal quite a bit of damage per hit, and they like to hide on ceilings and perform drop attacks, and due to their small size and speed, they can be pretty tough to shoot, making them rather dangerous, especially in packs. The words of Grandmaster Yoda ring true, size matters not when discussing them. The less noteworthy non-boss enemy that I recall off the top of my head were these robot humanoids who could teleport around, similar to the assault captains of Duke 3D in that regard. And they have very deadly ranged attacks, and they can absorb a lot of damage before succumbing to their demise, making them a high priority target for sure. And while there are at least one or two enemy types that I didn't mention, these are the most noteworthy ones. And moving on to a similar topic, time to talk bosses. I think all of them were fairly challenging, being neither too easy nor too hard, and I honestly preferred the bosses of Ion Fury over those in Duke 3D. I just found them more enjoyable as a whole. Not really sure why, but I just did. Not sure if I have a favorite boss, but the final Heskel boss fight was very interesting, as you don't really fight a boss as much as you do fight hordes of enemies who grow in strength and number as the battle progresses, while trying to blow up a giant dome by tossing explosives down a hole on the roof of it. A very satisfying battle, I must say, and I felt great after arising the victor of that encounter. And speaking of Heskel, he's an interesting enough villain I guess, as he pops in on TVs throughout the game and has some entertaining dialogue, as does your character Shelly. Like Duke, she's tough as nails and likes to crack jokes, and while she didn't have any super iconic one-liners like Duke, I really enjoyed listening to her and what she had to say.
How do you like your ribs? Why does everything around here always have to explode? Sorry about the mess.
But yeah, props to Valerie Arim, I hope I said that right, for her amazing voice acting job. And according to IMDb, John St. John, the voice of Duke Nukem, actually voiced Heskel, something that I never would have guessed. And this proves that he has quite a vocal range and a lot of talent.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
Despite your accolades, your file says you have a history of insubordination. I'm starting to see why.
And similar to Duke, Shelly has an idle animation of tossing a coin up in the air, kinda like how Duke says,
What are you waiting for? Christmas?
If the player goes AFK for too long, so a pretty nice touch in my opinion. Moving on to other things, I want to discuss Shelly's gear outside of her weaponry. She can hold up to 4 medkits at once, which each restore about 30% health I think, versus Duke's single medkit that can restore a full bar of health. And she also has a radar power-up, which is, a radar, allowing you to detect enemies and items in a nearby radius, but I seldom used it. In addition to these, Ion Fury holds temporary power-ups, which each last 30 seconds off the top of my head, being an environmental suit for underwater sections. I must say I prefer Duke's scuba gear, a double jump power-up, Again, I prefer Duke here with his awesome jetpack, a hyper damage power-up, and a infinite bowling bomb power-up, all of which Shelly can hold until she needs them, except for the suit, which is activated upon picking it up. So while she does have some cool gadgets, I think that Duke's gear selection edges Shelly's out, mainly because there were many times I wanted to have a jetpack, but Ion Fury still has a pretty solid selection nonetheless. And like Duke, Shelly has armor, and she can collect armor suits in increments of 50, 100, and the rare 200 armor outfits, in addition to being able to just grab armor shards found by lying around or dropped by fallen opponents. I would like to switch gears and discuss something that really made Ion Fury stand out to me, being food items and interactable objects. While both Duke and Ion Fury have medkits and medical supplies lying around for your usage, Fury has lots of food and drink items that Shelly can consume to restore health, like tacos, burgers, and pizza. I'm not sure why, but I just loved eating food in this game.
Yum, yum, yum. Yum, yum, yum.
Getting more into interactable items, Duke had quite a bit going on, like being able to destroy some walls, turn light switches on and off, flushing toilets, etc. And Ion Fury built on this, having a lot of things Duke holds, but more, also having flushable johns, wall demolition, and light switches, while also having things like a bowling minigame, being able to play a jukebox, a darts minigame, being able to turn on microwaves, opening and closing window blinds. The list goes on, and I give Ion Fury a A+ for its interactable objects. And another thing I want to praise this shooter for is its many references to Duke Nukem, like seeing his logo scattered around the game, graffiti that says "Nuke 'em all," and "Pigs are cops," and a reference to the second level on Duke 3D, when he's captured and told that he's going to be fried, and he breaks out of an electric chair the following level.
Hope nobody fries my ass.
A very nice touch in my opinion. As far as level design, I did get lost every now and then, and sometimes got frustrated searching for key cards, but nothing too irritating. This game also has a couple basic puzzles, but again, nothing too irritating. As far as the controller support, I had no input issues playing with an Xbox One controller. Graphically, Ion Fury nails its retro look 100%, although the game did crash on me a couple times, but nothing too major. On a more positive note, I love the soundtrack for this amazing game, and all the sound effects are spot on in my opinion. A final note is that Ion Fury even has a couple bonus levels to beat after the main story, which was a nice touch really, and I eventually want to play the Aftershock expansion / DLC for this game. In conclusion, Ion Fury is a game that left a huge impression on me, and I will remember it always, and this title earns a 9.9 out of 10 by my grade scale, dethroning Duke Nukem 3D as my favorite boomer shooter. As far as other boomer shooters that I would suggest, obviously Duke Nukem 3D, either World Tour if you want a modern port, or the Atomic Edition, available on Zoom platform for a very reasonable $6. And I would also suggest Quake, or Super 3D Noah's Ark, a very interesting but fun Christian boomer shooter running on the Wolfenstein 3D engine, which I have reviewed by the way, link in the end card and description. And that's it for my review. As far as my Bible verse of the day, I read Psalm 115, verse 1, NIV. Not to us, Lord, not to us, but to your name be the glory because of your love and faithfulness. As always, absolutely none of my content is made by AI, and I don't consent to my voice and likeness being replicated, copied, or modified by AI in any way, shape, or form. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Always remember that Jesus loves you all, and feel free to follow me on GameRam for behind the scenes action and hints at upcoming videos. Take it easy, y'all. Peace.